Strategic Accounting, Unlocking Business Growth and Success. Join the Bucketlist Accountant himself, David Patterson, as we explore how accountants can significantly influence business planning and growth beyond just tax compliance. Discover the value of strategic planning, the importance of business coaching, and how accountants can tailor their approach to individual business needs. I'm your host, Anthony Pearl. Let's get into making your bucket list happen. David, I wanted to ask you about a topic that's, dear to both of us, because we can explain to people who are listening in that you and I met kind of through business community originally. So very much about this idea of planning for your business. But what I found interesting when we first started speaking, and we've now recorded many podcasts together, that you get involved in that business planning side of things, ideally as an accountant, which on one hand is very logical. On the other hand, feels, wow, you do that? So talk to me about that idea.
Well, I think the business planning, and you're right, we kind of met at a business planning / coaching sessions, and it's very important to sort of know where you're heading and know how you're going to get there. And from an accounting perspective, we, without trying to make us sound more important than we are, but we have all the information at our fingertips through the Xero or QuickBooks or whatever that people use to be able to help people and guide people on decision making, because we've got the numbers at our fingertips and understand the numbers really well to be able to guide and help the clients in their business planning journey. It, to me, and I know you were kind of thinking, oh, crikey, I didn't realize, but to me, it makes sense that we're in the best position to help the clients with their business plan, with their growth.
I think what's fascinating about that is probably a question saying, it does seem logical, it makes sense. Why aren't more accountants doing it?
That's a really good question. And I think I'm just going to answer it from my perspective as to why, like in the early days, we weren't doing it. And I think there's two elements to it. One is when you go through uni and learn all about accounting, you're learning about tax, and you're learning about how to prepare a set of financial statements, and you're learning about how to prepare a BAS. So the things that they're teaching you as you go along is a lot more around the technical aspects of accounting rather than the business planning aspects, which can be a little more creative. And I'm going to say something here that won't shock too many people, but traditionally accountants haven't been that creative. We're fairly well pigeonholed into an area of you do your debits and your credits, and we use green pens if you're an auditor, but there's not a lot of personality and creativity flowing through the veins. And I think business planning for accountants can come along after a little bit of experience. I think you've got to learn. And one of the benefits that we have for businesses is that we're dealing with a wide range of businesses. So we're dealing with farmers, we're dealing with retailers, we're dealing with manufacturers, and we can pick ideas from different areas and slot them into someone's business to say, this client's doing this, we could help in your business. But I think one of the other areas why more accountants don't do this is it makes us more accountable. So if we're just doing someone's tax returns and someone's BASs and financial statements, we're dealing with historical information. So all we're doing is putting together what's already happened and presenting it to someone. The business planning stuff is forward thinking, and from my way of thinking, involves a little bit more commitment and a little bit more putting yourself out there to say, okay, we're going to help you grow your business. So doing it that way, there's very much a, did he do it or did he not do it? Has he helped me grow my business by 20%? Has he helped me have more holidays? Has he helped me do this? And it's a clear cut yes or no. There are reasons in between why some things don't always work out, but you're putting yourself out there to say, I can help you get to where you want to get to. So I think it puts more pressure on us to actually perform, which is not a bad thing.
And I think as well, it brings in that relationship around really being involved in the business, isn't it? It's going beyond you've got to pay your tax, you've got to pay your PAYG, etc., which tends to be the discussion realm for most. It's usually centered around tax.
Yep.
And now it's centered around ideas of growth.
Yeah, 100%. And it's a bit of a learning curve for both lots, I think, in that traditionally most people will come to accounting to get their tax done. To expand beyond that to help them grow their business, it's a bit of growth for both sides, I think, to get to that point where, and they become a lot more comfortable with you as a person, and you get a much greater understanding of each other, really. It becomes a much more personal relationship than just doing someone's tax.
How much do you have to be involved in understanding their own way of approaching strategy? So you and I, we've explained, we've been part of the same business coaching community for a little while. So our approach would be very similar because we've got the same sort of training and background. But I imagine that's not the case with most of your clients, and they'd have varying degrees of whether they're even being coached to whether they're just making stuff up as they go along the way. How much of a role do you have to play in that, or is it merely trying to be just giving that small amount of input?
It probably comes down to having that really good understanding of your client, and different people are going to want different input. Some people, like you said, some people have a greater understanding of all aspects of their business and really just need someone someone to bounce something off. So just a sounding board more than anything. Other clients are really keen to try and find out how we can do things and really lean on us to help them come up with plans and strategies to get their business to where they want to go. And there's kind of a whole range in between. It's just a matter of getting a gauge on the people's strengths and weaknesses and making sure that they're playing to their strengths and that you're helping by either introducing other people or yourself to help them in their areas of weakness. So allowing them just to do the things that they do really well, which you learn by getting an understanding of who they are and how they work, and then kind of slotting in and helping them with any areas of weakness that they might have, which we all do.
How important do you think it is? And this is, an interesting question, I think, but as an accountant, how important do you think it is that the businesses that you're working with do have a coach?
Oh, I think it's extremely important. I think it's fundamental to positive outcome down the track. And I think what a coach will do will keep you aligned to your values, which are very easy to get off track. And I mean, we all do it. You get caught up in the day to day and you tend to forget about the bigger picture and lose sight of what you're trying to achieve. Having the coach there will give you accountability so that you sort of continue doing the things that you said you were going to do to get to a given outcome. So I think it's really, I think the fact that, and it gets used as an example all the time, but professional sportsmen all have a coach. They all, and it's for that very reason, to be able to help point out little areas of improvement that they can make to take their game to the next level. But I don't think that there's too many successful sports people of any description that haven't had a coach along the way.
This podcast is brought to you by Bucketlistaccounting.com.au. Speak to David Patterson and his team if you want to take better control of your life and business, helping small business owners like you be successful designing the life of your dreams. Go to Bucketlistaccounting.com.au or check out the show notes for more information. Now back to the program. Yeah, I think it is an interesting observation, really. And you're right. I mean, you look at national teams, you look at individuals, even top tennis players, top golfers. All of these people all have a coach.
Yep.
There's barely a team anywhere that doesn't have a coach at at all levels, because it is about that little bits of improvement. So that there is 100% value in there. And yet, I don't know what the percentages are of people that have or don't have a coach, but I guess that my question for you then is have you struck businesses where they've come to you and they've not had a coach? And do you try and, we talk about bucket lists a lot. Does that have to be on the top of the bucket list for them? And is that something that you have to talk them into, or is that something that, they understand is an important aspect of being in business?
Yeah. So I think the majority of new clients that come across to us wouldn't have had a business coach at all, or if they have, it's for a very small period of time. And the discussion that we have with the clients isn't so much about trying to convince them that they need someone, but it's more about getting an understanding of where their business sits right now, getting an understanding of what they want to achieve in their business, getting an understanding of what they want to do in personal life, and aligning the performance of the business with the outcomes that they want to achieve. And by having the conversation, they quickly come to the realization that their business is going well and everything's good, or that their business isn't quite performing well enough for them to be able to do all the things that they want to do. Once they get to that sort of realization, then they sort of start to be open more to the idea of getting someone in to help them grow their business, because they suddenly realize that we're not going to be able to do this on our own. We need some help. And it's not just having a business coach there to do everything for them, but it's about highlighting and finding areas of improvement and then finding the best way to fix that. So it may be that to increase their exposure, they need a podcast, so we send them to you. It may be that they need a...
yes, please.
It may be that they need someone to help them email marketing or any kind of marketing or sales, or so then you put them in that direction. It may mean that they need to do a bit of work on their mental strength and their mental side of things and their ability to focus. So you get someone else in who's an expert on that. It's about getting an understanding of areas that they need help on to build their business to where they want it to get to give them the best possible chance of achieving it.
What's really interesting to me is that I'd say, I'm sort of plucking a number out of here, and I'd say probably 99% of businesses realize they need an account.
I'd agree.
And the next realization they tend to have is they need a bookkeeper, and that may come from the accountant. It may or may not be connected, but they realize that that's the case. And I think the coaching is probably not far behind that, and it should be for most businesses. And I think what's also important is if you're a good coach as well, you also have your own coach. I think it's always having it at that level that you're always learning. And I guess in that, guys, we've talked about that we both share part of the same coaching organization, that the philosophies and things around that are really important, and that you keep learning all the time so that you can transfer that to your clients as well. And I think that the big differentiator is actually getting involved, in that relationship, because I think that's the interesting thing when we say that the accountant is the first probably hire that people have because they recognize the need for it. But how do they use that in a better way? Because more often than not, as we said before, it's really usually just about a tax relationship and not about a strategic planning relationship. And I, again, go back to this idea of the philosophy and understanding of that. How do you fit in with what each individual has as their own coach and their own way of thinking? Because, the philosophy that you and I might agree on because of our community may not be what the next one agrees on. So how do you find that balance as well and trying to fit in with where their thought process is for how their strategic planning process takes place?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think what's happening is because I'm getting coaching as at the same time, I'm learning all these methods and techniques and understandings, so that when a client comes to me and we start having a chat about their business and finding out what it is they want to do, the fact that I've been learning all this other new stuff, well, not even new stuff, but different approaches and different methods, it allows me to flow that information through into the individual clients, so that we're not trying to fit everyone into the same sort of hole. We're kind of giving them their own hole with their own unique circumstances, but just the experience of what you learn as you go along, you're able to adapt to each individual business, because everyone's got different wants and different needs. So you can't just apply a blanket approach to everybody. It's got to be a unique. 80% of it's probably the same across the board, but it's that, and maybe even a bit more, but it's that top 10, 20% that makes the big difference to how you go and how the client goes from a performance perspective.
I mean, give me some examples. I'm sure you've got lots of stories of businesses that you work with and seeing that difference in the strategic process and then how it plays out over the coming months and years.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's. I don't know if this is going to answer your question, but it's once you get that understanding of, and this only comes from sort of conversations and getting to know the people, but once you get a feel for what's driving them, you can then use that as a guide to help them through the process. So you begin to learn areas where the client gets a bit stuck, so you can sort of head them off at the curb before they get there, because you can see what's coming up. But I mean, I guess ultimately it's about being with them and going through it with them as much as you possibly can. So it's not I don't think the concept of saying to you in your business, here's what I want you to do for the next 3 months, I'll see you in 3 months' time. Continual contact and making sure that you're helping them where you can, when you can.
I think the lesson in all of this to people listening is that if you're in business and you haven't involved your accountant in the strategic planning process, then you should. And if they don't want to be involved, then maybe it's time to look for another accountant.
Maybe not necessarily look for another accountant, but look for someone that can help you grow your business. I mean, I'm more than happy. I mean, it's not the ideal scenario, but I'm more than happy for someone to come across and keep their current accountant to do the tax and compliance work, and we can just work together on growing the business. That they don't have to go hand in hand. You can have two people doing the two jobs. I think it works better if the one doesn't. But if they've got a good relationship with their accountant, but their accountant just can't provide this next level of advice, absolutely, you need to find someone else to help you in that area.
I love it that you've redefined how people think about accounting. We've talked about, the bucket list, but I think this goes deeper, and this strategic planning is such an important element for any business owner. And you're right, it's a specialist kind of, as much as there are specialist tax accountants, specializing in this kind of strategic area is also a really important facet for a business to gain a huge advantage from. Absolutely.
And not, like you said, not every accountant wants to be a business coach. So, which is fine, we've all got our own specialties, and it'd be a terrible world if we're all doing exactly the same thing.
The Bucketlist Accountant podcast is brought to you by David Patterson and his team at Bucketlist Accountant. Go and visit their website for more information, details of course in the show notes. I'm Anthony Pearl, your host from Podcast Done For You. We look forward to having your company in the next episode.